Hello, welcome to another lesson with Ming. Today we'll talk about exponent law, and our learning target for this lesson is I can explain what it means to have a raised to the power of negative m. Alright, let us get started. Well, what does it mean to have a squared divided by a cube? Let's start from the beginning. A times a squared is a times a cube is a times a times a. Now, compared to the previous lessons, in here, the first index, the value of the first index is actually smaller than the value of the second index. 2 is less than 3. So now you can see that there are more items in the denominator compared to the numerator. So if you do the cancellation, you find that there is one item left in the denominator. So in this case, it's 1 over a. Right, 1 over a. And let's look at another questions. How about a cubed divided by a to the power of 5? Well, doing the same process, you will find that in the numerator you have a times a times a, and in the denominator is a times a times a times a times a, that is a 5 times. And by cancellation method, and you will see that you are left with 2 a's in the denominator. So this is 1 of a times a, or 1 over a squared. Now let us observe what we've learned before. Now in previous lesson, if we have, now what is that? If we have 2 divided by a cube, a squared divided by a cube, well, if I use the method of taking the difference of the indices, then in this case it's 2 minus 3, so I have a to the power of negative 1. And similarly for the second one is a cubed divided by a to the power of 5. If I use the method that I've learned before in the previous lesson, that will be in the index 3 minus 5, or a to the power of negative 2. So if these two are exactly the same, then the symbol is 1 over a must equal to a to the power of negative 1. And 1 over a squared is equal to a to the power of negative 2. Now at this stage, you probably know how to answer this question. Then what's the meaning of a to the power of negative m? Well, using this observation before, then it must be obvious that this is 1 over a raised to the power of m. Alright, here are some exercises for you to practice. The question number 3 is a little bit long. You may want to read it carefully and put it into a mathematical symbol before you solve them. Alright, welcome back. Now let's try our first question. The first question is relatively straightforward. That is basically a in the index will be 4 minus 7. That is a to the power of negative 3. Alright, or if you prefer, you can write it as 1 over a cube. Right. The second question is by similar method, a raised to the power of 3 minus 8, or a to the power of negative 5, or 1 over a raised to the power of 5. Do you get all of them correct? Excellent if you have. Now, the next question is basically a chemistry problem. So basically, this question is just having 6.022 times 10 to the power of 20 divided by 6.022 times 10 to the power of 23. So if you do that, you'll find that 6.022 divided by 6.022, because we have to separate a number from the exponent. So 10 to the power of 20 divided by 10 to the power of 23. So that gives me 1 times 10 to the power of 20 minus 23, or 1 times 10 to the power of negative 3. So in the context of this particular question is 1 times 10 to the power of negative 3 mole of water. All right. I hope that you have enjoyed these lessons, and I hope that you have reached the target or attained the target of able to explain to another person what it means to have a to the power of negative m.